Evening. Welcome to Talking Politics. I'm your host this evening, Mia Skanga, and tonight we're going to be talking about tax assessments here in Jersey City. I'm sure you're aware that the last full property revaluation went live in January of 1988. Of course, it takes 2 to 3 years to accumulate that data. So many of the assessments are almost 30 years old now, and a lot has changed in Jersey City in 30 years. I'm sure you're also aware that when Stephen Fulop became mayor in July of 2013, he put an immediate halt to the revaluation, saying it was flawed. Well, a few weeks ago, the judge, he also filed suit against Realty Appraisals and wanted the money back. The original contract was $3.2 million, and they were low bid, and they were still owed almost $1 million. Well, a few weeks ago, the judge ruled against Jersey City, and so now we're going to be out the $3.2 million. We still owe them $1 million for that, plus legal fees, and the city of Jersey City has spent at least $500,000 in outside attorneys. Plus, I'm sure we're paying for the attorneys for Realty Appraisal since we lost, plus interest. This boondoggle is going to cost the taxpayers probably $4.5 million or so, maybe more. And most of the data isn't usable because it's over 3 years old. They started in 2011. The state has also mandated that Jersey City complete a revaluation by November of 2017. The city's ratio is down to about 27%. Anything below 85%, 70% is supposed to trigger a reval. So this was many years in the making. Personally, my opinion is one of the reasons that Mayor Fulop decided to file that frivolous suit was that immediately upon taking office, the ink practically wasn't even dry on his paperwork for mayor. He already had his sights set for running for governor. And I think it's pretty obvious now. That takes a lot of money. So how do they do it? More 30-year and 25-year tax abatements. KRE has been a tremendous recipient of those abatements for pocket change. Mayor Fulop gave away Journal Square. When you look at that tower, they're paying about approximately $1,200 per year per unit. That pays nothing. And you know that tax-abated properties do not pay any school taxes, which is another area of serious concern. So that's my opinion. I hope you find this informative. This is going to be a hot topic for some time to come.
So why don't we look at some various properties? Why don't we start out with the mayor's property, which he bought in July of 2015 with his fiancée, 360 Ogden Avenue, and he paid $845,000 for it. It's a one-family frame. The house sold 3 years prior for $415,000, so it doubled in value. But if you look at the pictures, which I've included, and these all came from Zillow.com, you'll see the kitchen and the deck, and they had photographs of the bathrooms, etc. To me, they look brand spanking new, but his assessment never changed. It was, and still is, $104,000. So the house looks like it went through a major renovation, and the taxes are $7,781.28. Now let's compare that to a couple of properties that I took a look at in 2014. One of them is 685 Communipaw Avenue. One of the reasons I went to look at it was the price. It was $45,000. It's a frame house. I thought maybe for an investment. It's a one-family, very small footprint. It sold for $45,000. And I can't tell from the outside whether or not it's gone through major renovations, but the inside needed a total gut. The taxes on that property are $7,265.02. Now, in that case, the house is assessed at $97,100. But the neighborhood's not that great. It's only a couple of blocks from Walgreens, where a month after I went to take a look at it, Melvin Santiago was gunned down in front of the Walgreens. Now, 38 Kensington is in the West Bergen area. I looked at that property. It eventually sold in August of 2014 for $260,000. It's a brick, has a driveway and a garage, which is great. One family, very small footprint. I met the couple who, were looking to sell it. A lovely couple. They had lived there since, I think, 1992. They were now retired, and the primary reason they were selling was they couldn't handle the taxes anymore. And the taxes on that property are $9,300. So that house sold for less than a third of the value of the mayor's house, and pays over $1,500 more in taxes, and needs a lot of work. Now, the next one is 303 Magnolia, which is in the Journal Square area. I saw that house. By the time I got there, they already had several other offers. It sold or closed in September of 2014 for $350,000, which was more than the asking price. It is a two-family frame, great location close to Journal Square, which was a major plus. But I don't think the house had been touched since like World War II. I was told that the house had been vacant for at least 10 years, and now the family was looking to sell it. The block is a nice, okay block, you can see from the photographs. Taxes on that property, and it had been vacant, they told me, for 10 years. Why they never appealed is beyond me. $9,674. Once again, that is higher by $1,900 compared to the mayor's taxes for a house that no one has lived in for years. For those of us who've been in Jersey City a long time, we've all heard of Country Village, which is a working class neighborhood in the Greenville section of Jersey City. In the 80s and 90s, it was a very popular area for many of the politicians from Jersey City. Since then, unfortunately, with global warming, they've had issues with flooding. Certain areas got hit really hard with Hurricane Sandy. And what I noticed when I drove around is a lot of the houses are two families. The one that I'm showing here is a one-family frame with a little bit of brick and a carport. And it was foreclosed by the feds for about $250,000 just recently, because there's a family living there now. Taxes are $9,172 for one family in Greenville. So her taxes are almost $1,400 higher than Mayor Phillips, and sold for less than a third of the value of his house. And you can see, I have a photograph there of a house across the street. Here's another example in Country Village, a one-family frame which sold for $260,000 in January of 2016, and the taxes are $7,938, more than the mayor's. And then in the McGinley Square area, 901 Montgomery Street, a two-family frame detached house. It sold for $357,000 in December of 2015, and the taxes are $9,338. So this just kind of gives you an idea of selling prices in other parts of the city and what the taxes are in comparison. So let's just talk about a few homes downtown that sold for some heavy dollars. Like I mentioned, I lived myself in Jersey City for 30 years in the same house on Mercer Street. I was a little amazed at some of these other prices. Now, this one is on Jersey Avenue, 586, sold for $999,000 in August of 2012. And barely 2 years later, it sold for $1.6 million. So you have to kind of assume $600,000 over that time frame, there had to have been some major work done. And the assessment still remains the same at $125,000, which gives it a ratio of 7.81%. And then a neighbor of mine, 38 Mercer Street, who had been attempting to sell off and on for years, finally struck it rich. Seems like firehouses are very popular with New Yorkers. They sold the house in August of 2015 for $2.3 million. I had been in it once or twice. It's huge. It's really deep. But it's a firehouse. It's one family. It has to be a love of yours to want to live in a firehouse. The taxes remain the same. In terms of the assessment did not change. It's still at $149,400, which is really kind of on the low side for that whole area. So that was a little surprising. So the taxes are $11,178. I think they had lived in the home for about 10 years or so, maybe a little longer than that. The state information is limited. Now here's a house that looks like it had been extensively renovated and then sold. It sold in May of 2014 for $1,900,000. It's listed as a 2-unit, and it sold for $1.9 million. Now in this case, the assessor went in and doubled the assessed value. So they probably gutted the house and of course pulled the permits, and the taxes are now at $24,317. So at that, prior to that, they were $12,000 or so. Unfortunately, some of the people, when they do buy these homes, they don't realize that the city has every right to go in and reassess the property once you've done some major renovations, and it's allowed by law anywhere in the state of New Jersey. I've also heard that Mayor Phillip was trying to stop that, but that wasn't successful at all. And it's a 25-foot wide home, which is lovely, and in the Hamilton Park area, which is a very desirable neighborhood. Now here's a property, 241 Grove Street, that was bought by Dixon, which is a private equity firm out of Australia. I think they're funded by the teachers' pension funds. That's what I've heard. And they have bought a lot of properties all over the city. I heard at one time they had purchased more than 300 properties, predominantly downtown, but in the Heights and other areas. When they do, for the most part, but not always, they go in and gut the property. And they do a beautiful job, absolutely beautiful. And some of them, I'm going to show you, the city has come in and reassessed the property. So this property sold in June of 2012 for $710,000. It was resold by Dixon, and as you can see, it's a beautiful renovation job. The house is 20 feet wide, but it's on Grove Street. It is listed as a 2-unit. I think it has a rental on the ground floor. And the city went in and raised their assessment, more than doubled it, from $120,000 to $400,000. And they're still at 20.79%, which is below the 27% threshold. But the taxes are $29,950. Yikes. So here's another one, 268 Montgomery Street. It's 20 feet wide, which is not exceptionally wide. It's sold in 2013 for $1,450,000. Hawthorne Properties, which is really just another arm of Dixon Properties that we discussed before. They put some work into it. The photographs here are from Zillow when the house originally sold. So to me, it looks like it's been extensively renovated and quite lovely. 1.45 million. And I did see scaffolding, new windows, I think central air. And the city has doubled the assessment from $250,000 to $585,000. And the tax bill, if you're not sitting down, you should. And this is a 2-unit. And like I said, a lot of the houses on the park are 25-foot wide homes. The tax bill is now $43,770. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. It's a lovely house, but it's nothing like the house on the corner. And other huge houses like the house on Grand Street. $43,770. It's a 208 Grand Street. It's a triple lot, 60 by 100. The outside of it is gorgeous. Unfortunately, I have no photographs of the inside. And the taxes are $18,106 for a property on a triple lot. One thing I might add is that the owner, well, there are two people who own it, but the owner is on the planning board. And you wonder how much impact that has, because I think the assessment was higher a few years back and it was reduced. I noticed that in 2013 it had been reduced. So here is a property, triple lot. It's really like a mansion, and the property taxes are $18,106 with a private driveway, garages, maybe even a pool in the back, who knows. And that you can see the view of the property is Liberty Harbor North. Spectacular view, great location downtown. Now let's compare that property on Grand Street to a property on Kennedy Boulevard, which I'm sure you've driven by dozens of times. 2456 Kennedy Boulevard, which has been vacant for decades. Now, from what I heard, the last run-up in real estate prices around 2005, 2008, the property sold, but I don't have the price here, to a developer who then got the zoning variance to change it from a one-family to condos. I think it was going to be five units. But unfortunately, the market crashed, and I heard that he overextended himself, and the house went into foreclosure. And then it was sold recently in December of 2015 for $335,000. So here you have, these pictures are out of Zillow. As you can see, I think half the roof is missing, so we're talking practically gutting the property. It's on a beautiful piece of land. Now get this, the taxes are $17,561. That's only $771 less than the house on Grand Street, which is a mansion. This is going to take hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not more, to renovate and make this into condos. And it's certainly never going to be as desirable of a location as being downtown. One of the reasons is the location, proximity to the path, and the time it takes to get into the city. So I thought that was an interesting contrast.
Now, I did want to mention about a new group that's formed, NJ Together. And here in Jersey City, it's a coalition of about 50 churches, Christian churches, synagogues, and a mosque. And they had their first kickoff meeting on April 11th at the Old Bergen Church. And they drew about 890 people from the area. And if you're not familiar, Old Bergen Church is in the McGinley Square area of Jersey City. In attendance was Mayor Stephen Fulop and the county exec, Tom DeGeese. And there was a variety of issues, including affordable housing, the homeless situation, and the revow and the postponement of the revow. Mayor Fulop stood there and tried to justify why the city was in litigation with the revow firm and why it was a bad thing to do a revow. The judge ruled against Jersey City several days later, and he's now changed his tune. I might add that the crowd booed him at the meeting. Now, one thing I wanted to bring up, which did not get enough time, were the charts that were put together by a team from Jersey's NJ Together. And what they did is they plotted all of the residential sales from 2012 to 2015. Now, in the first chart, it is a comparison of the assessed value of the property divided by the actual sales price. And that, like I mentioned, that's within that 3-year period. And you'll notice that the dark burgundies and the orange is 50% or 60% over the city's average valuation, which is at about 27%. So if you're at 50% or 60% or higher, you're paying at least double what your fair share of taxes are for that house in your community. And you'll note that the lighter areas, the greens and the yellows, which are under the 27%, are predominantly in the downtown area, some of the heights like the Ogden Avenue area, and some of the areas in Journal Square. Now, the second chart is also based on census data, and it's the median household income by blocks. So the darker maroons are the high income areas, over like 75,000 to 100, over 100, and that's mostly concentrated in the downtown area, as well as Port Liberté and I think Society Hill. And the lower income is the yellow and the kind of light orange, and that is concentrated in Greenville and Bergen Lafayette, which also have the highest assessed value to true sales price properties. Now, the third chart is demographics. And so it's the percentage of white non-Hispanics. Now, the darker areas, once again, the dark burgundy, over 85% of the population is African American, Hispanic, and Asian. Once again, that's predominantly in Greenville and Bergen Lafayette, which has the lowest income and also the highest assessed value to sales price, because there's a lot of crime in those areas, as well as the accessibility to public transportation being lacking. And then the yellows are predominantly downtown area. Now, keep in mind the last reval was in 1987 and went live in 88. A lot has changed in the city in the last 30 years.
I do want to mention there's an activist, Bridget D'Souza, who has her own blog, civicparent.org. She's a mother of two. She has done the same. She's plotted all of the 2015 residential sales onto a Google map. It's not quite live yet. They're still working on it, but you should sign up on her blog. But once it does, which I'm sure will be in the next few weeks, you'll be able to click on any of the points on the map and actually see the sales data. And she pretty much comes up with the same conclusions as all of us have for a number of years, especially when we're fighting City Hall on tax abatements.
I hope you found this very informative. A couple of things I wanted to mention are that the City Council, they need to see some new faces down at City Hall, especially when there's a vote on tax abatements. The council meetings are the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month. They start at 6 p.m., 6:30. When they're up for a vote, second reading, as with any ordinance, the public can speak pro or con on the issue. You can also sign up with the city clerk's office if you want to discuss any issue during the public speaking portion, which is at the end of the meeting. You get 3 minutes. But they need to see other people there fighting these 30 and 25-year tax abatements. It's absurd that on April 12th, we have a second reading on another 25-year tax abatement on rentals. We get pocket change for rentals. When you look at that tower in Journal Square, we're getting probably an average of about $1,200, $1,300 per unit. That pays nothing. Plus, the city bonded, I'm not sure how much, and the proceeds of the abatement are going to go to pay the bonds for infrastructure needs. So in the end, there's nothing. All we need is a couple hundred or even a couple of dozen children in there, and it's a major loss for the taxpayers here. So unless they see some new faces, it's going to continue. Also, another issue is that Mayor Fulop is looking to change the municipal elections from May to November. That would be on this monstrous ballot. We're not even sure if the machines could handle it, which include any state elections for governor, federal, any assembly, U.S. senator, school board, as well as mayor and 9 council people. And in some years, we've had 2, 3, 4 slates of candidates who ran. It'll be so confusing. Plus, we're not even sure if the machines can handle it, which then could cost the taxpayers millions of dollars to replace the machines. Vote no. It's a binding referendum. The mayor really was disingenuous in that he sent out numerous emails saying that the city would save $400,000 a year. That's not true. First of all, a mayoral election is once every 4 years, so we're not saving $1.6 million. Plus, he's on record saying that he wants to eliminate the runoff. So anybody who's an incumbent could win with like 10-15% of the vote. Say no. Enough is enough. So thank you for watching. Tell your friends and neighbors. The show streams off of YouTube, talkingpolitics.net, and broadcasts on Channel 51 with Comcast. Thank you so much and have a great night.